Hi guys, welcome back to part 2 of my camera arm video. This is where I'm going to cover how I've improved my runner and actually making the camera arm to secure to it. If you guys have missed the first part, that covers how I've made the rail and the possibilities of the system that's gone into my workshop and how well that's going to work. So if you've missed that first part, check out the link just here and you can jump back to that video and see how it's all started out. For the first part of this video, it jumps into how I've improved the runner. Let me show you guys here. This was the old version 1, so the first prototype. You saw me made these in the first part where I adapted these to, I didn't want to waste them. I repurposed these into my vacuum extract that you saw. I felt that this sort of Mark 1 for this was a bit clumsy. You can see I've had to fiddle and all sorts to get it to work. You'll see that in this first part that the runner is far more simplified and works a lot better. Another factor with this, let me just grab the rail, was because it's only got bearings down either side, the tracking on this and how well it ran on the runner meant that this surface here could essentially rub, so it doesn't run as freely as I'd like. So all these issues are being resolved in the first part of the video, and then I'll move on to how I then create an articulating arm attached to the ceiling on this system, and you'll hopefully see a conclusion at the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get into showing you how I've made prototype version 2 of this camera arm.
We're starting this video off with laser cutting the second prototype of the runner. You'll see from the first photo here that I wasn't overly happy with how it came out. It was a little bit overly complicated. This second design's a simplified version but also improved at the same time. The first part of this redesign was to merge two runners into one. I started by countersinking the side panels. Again, here's another favourite countersink bit that I use. These are actually engineering deburring countersinks that give a far better finish on existing holes. Just the same as the first prototype, I fitted bearings with washers and nuts and bolts. As I explained if you saw the previous video, I spaced the bearings with a washer to prevent the outer races of the bearings binding on the wood. This allows then a free run on the track and for it to run more smoothly. This next part is the key to improving the design of the stability and how well it runs on the track. The slots on the plate allow me to minimise the clearance between the bearings and the track. This then alleviates any racking issues that I had from the previous design. It also then helps prevent the side plates from rubbing. I still wanted to keep this system fairly universal, so essentially the design's wrapped around a piece of timber. This can allow me to modify it, change it to suit my needs, so I could remove that and hang pretty much anything I wanted, whether it's modify it for a light that moves around the workshop, I could hang a door from it, anything you want that you want to move and be portable, maybe a magnifier on an arm, that sort of thing. Here I'm adding the adapter plate to allow me to attach my camera arm. It's a simple flat plate that I'm going to add threaded inserts in to allow me to pivot my arm round 360 degrees so that I can film anywhere. It was a simple case of marking where I needed the holes, drilling the centre hole all the way through. That was for a through bolt, and the end two were for some threaded inserts that would allow me to lock off the camera arm in certain positions when I needed it to be.
Hey guys, just a quick one. Just so I get this right, I'm going to run this off a little bit of notes. Sorry to interrupt your viewing, bit of an interlude. Let me just cover a few things I kind of want to talk about to sort of set this channel out from the start. You see, I've sort of dumped these 5 videos on, and I sort of explained my fears about well, you guys hopefully know about these issues. So let me just jump back to my notes, and this might get tweaked and edited, but we'll see. Obviously this is a new channel. I kind of wanted to set my stand out on this from the start. Within these videos, hopefully, if you guys are all watching the first 5, it's great. It's great that you're doing that. I'd really love it if you guys could sort of comment, give me some constructive feedback as to how I'm doing, how I could improve, and like what you guys would like to see more of. I really sort of finding it a bit frustrating as to what content you guys would like to see. Do you like the making side of it? Do you want more tips, tricks, and those little details? I'm not sure like how in depth to go with these videos, and I'm like sort of to get you guys to tell me like what you'd like to see would be really appreciative. So yeah, I mean, it's things like if you're interested in the laser cutting tips, if you're a laser cutter, would you like to see more of what programs I use? Maybe if there's tips that or issues that I've had to learn from, that sort of stuff. If you've got questions, just ask, and hopefully then I can come up with some more content to go into other videos. Let me just see. Talking of laser cutting, quick drop. I have got 10 sort of laser cut items to help with woodworking, if you guys are interested. So check out the link. But on that note, say the feedback's great, as long as it's, again, I'm going to set my stand out here so that I'm not fearful of the repercussions. Constructive is great, but it's not a troll fest. I'm not here to be abused. Look, we all make things, or we don't. But there's lots of different ways of making things. So my way is not necessarily the way. If you don't like the way I've made something, then fine. If you feel that your way that you know is better, then so be it. But I love your views on that, but not necessarily jump down my throat at me. Don't forget, there's me on the other end of these comments that appreciate constructive feedback, but not abuse. So say, bit of community guidelines here. Let's be polite on here, sort of nice channel. I want to know how you feel about these things, and we'll see where we go from there with it. The last thing on my mind, that I'll always remember this as a kid, I don't know whether it's a generation thing or not. It's probably an older generation thing than mine, actually, that I was fed, and not necessarily the sort of maybe younger generations was fed, which is, at the end of the day, if you've not got something polite to say or nice to say nothing at all. If you don't like my content, then just move along. Doesn't have to be nasty, does it? So appreciate your time for this little mini interlude. Let's get back into the video, and we'll swiftly move on. Thank you.
Now that the run is complete, it's actually time to start on the camera arm. Yes, you might be surprised at that, but there is actually a camera arm being made here. The first part's on the laser cutter. Again, for me, it's a really quick, fast, fun way. I get to play about on a computer, make some parts, try things out, that sort of thing. But as you may have seen on the first video, I did T-slot bolts. So this same thing. It was a design that was based on a 3D printer. I then eventually, after this, you'll see me assemble with nuts and bolts, but actually I glued it as well further along down the lines. But this idea of having a gear on here was to allow me to lock the camera arm, because I was thinking of many different ways how I could attach an arm, and I found that this was the simplest solution, but also had the ability for me to adapt it later on down the lines. Because you can, as you may have seen, people have cameras that will pan around a room or move. So the idea is that possibly in the future I could add a stepper motor to these gears to allow me to slowly move a camera across a shot or that sort of thing, possibly as an adaptation later on. Here I'm just adjusting the bearings to suit, to get it to be free running on the track but minimise the movement. Now some people may be looking at this and thinking, well, how come you've put so many holes in this adapter plate? Well, the idea is that I could add more arms if I wanted to. So it's got the potential I could add stabilising weights if I needed to, or lights or anything like that, other accessories. So it's just got the ability to be expanded later on down the lines. Here I'm just quickly gluing the arms up. The arms are actually 3 layers, so what I've tried to use here is coach bolts, hence the square holes. I then use the quick glue up method here. I'm using standard PVA wood glue and then using some O3A thick adhesive and some adhesive activator. Just allows me to get everything placed in the right place. I can then put the bolts through to hold it. It just makes sure that nothing's going to slip or slide out of alignment while the glue's drying. These are then clamped all together and left overnight to dry. Once the 4 arms were complete, the next stage was to cut out on the laser again the final part to hold the camera. This again was based around the 3D printing system that I've used in the other parts. I created an arm that essentially would be fairly stable, so I added in a couple of ribs just to hold the plate all secure, and then this would then allow me to add the camera fittings onto this, and there's various different fittings out there, so I kind of tried to keep this fairly universal. I could add more holes if need be, and adapt it to suit. Another feature you may have seen on this is that there is multiple holes in different places. This again was to try and keep it a fairly flexible system, so I could move my arms into different positions. If I needed it to be lower, I could fit it to other holes on the parts, which would allow me to again either get it lower, or if I need it to be higher, or that sort of thing, or to cantilever out into a further position in the workshop.
So guys, here we are. It's all done. I've not really shown you any clips, have I? You've got a brief little mini clip at the end. Well, here it is. So, just a quick one. I'll show you this shot, that's why I'm talking, and then I'll give you a tour with the camera around on all the other parts. But yeah, it's a simple setup. I can now move this around, look. You won't see this, but I'll show you a clip. You can undo it here at the top. I can rotate, I'll be able to rotate my camera 360 degrees. As I said, I've got different holes here. I've got other holes here, so if I needed this arm lower, because it does have its limits, I needed it lower, what I can do is attach it to the top two holes here, and then it drops down even lower. And if I needed it further, obviously, you'd just use these two. So it's got loads of flexibility in that respect. I can even put this side onto here, which makes it a really long arm if I needed to get it into a funny awkward place. It's got loads of flexibility. Let's jump to some of the clips so you can see what it's all about. There we are. This is the bottom of the arm. It's a basic little setup. Nice and simple. I've got two on here, just flexibility. If I needed to film from above with the camera, I can film straight down. I can film forwards. It's got the potential here. Generally at the minute, I'm using a basic setup. iPhone 13, that's it. And my standard lighting, at the minute it's nothing fancy. I'm starting out here. I'm not here to blow budgets and spend a fortune on cameras and all sorts. But yeah, so I've got two. So I could, because as we say with social media nowadays, sometimes, well, and shorts now, of course, I'm having to sometimes film in two different formats. So now I could attach a standard camera to the top here. I could put my phone on here, so I can do vertical format and landscape format and film at once, which saves me a bunch of time, really does. So if I can get content for both formats in one go and in one take, it's far easier, isn't it, than dealing with multiple takes. These are just coach bolts at the back, and then these little knobs to play with. Just allow me to loosen and tighten up, which allows me to move it up and down. If I need to lock it, I can tighten it up a bit more. If it's a bit stiff, I can just undo them. Let's try and jump you to other sections. This is going to be handheld, so I'm going to be honest here, it's going to be a bit shaky because I'm not the steadiest of hands. But let's try and move you up. So that's the initial arm, up to the secondary joint, moving up to the rotary section on the runner. So it's a little bit hard to film this because it's way up in the air, but oh, I'm wobbling. As you can see, I can rotate that now through 360 degrees. And if I want to lock it off, I've just got to do that up to lock it, to stop it moving. It's a fairly thin construction. It's more than strong enough, but all camera arms will do this. It's got a wobble. But if I wanted to dampen that, you could add weights to it, either here or further up. As I say, if I wobble it here, look, you'll see that the runner's better with the bearings, and you could adjust them a bit more, but I want it to be free running, look, like that. Really easy to move around the workshop. So it's going to make a really easy job of it. You can see my lighting's a bit dark, but this camera's doing a really good job. Trying to be an honest film of this, but I think it's turned out really well. Really chuffed with it. I hope you guys like it, and there'll be more little designs like this to come. So guys, thanks for watching. I've not got a lot more to say, except for very appreciate. Yeah, so comments, feedback, greatly appreciated. Whether you want to see more of what content, again, comments below. If you want to like, subscribe, and get on my channel, it'd be, say, really greatly appreciated. I think that's it. Maybe. We shall see. I'll turn the camera off, shall I? Oh, fucking leaves the... Oh, swearing. Who leaves the tripod lying around? I don't need to trip over this anymore, do I?